2.
Welcome, everybody, to the H3 podcast. I'm here today with YouTuber ContraPoints, a.k.a. Natalie. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Ethan. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on.
We originally had you scheduled to come on the day after the election, but there was so much going on, we decided to wait and let the dust settle a little bit.
Yeah, I would have been like comatose. I don't think I slept more than a couple hours that night. I was just like glued to Twitter for 16 straight hours. It would have been bad.
I was the same way, and I was Were you losing your mind a little bit during that period? And it went on for like
100%.
Yeah, and I wasn't
fully
sleeping,
crazy.
and I was obsessed with like Twitter and the news and all. It was really
it was
a horrible
like,
week.
Terrible. There was just like 90 consecutive hours of like pacing in a bathrobe, looking at Twitter, just like really bad times.
I gotta say that first night was pretty. When I went to bed, I was not feeling very happy.
I didn't go to bed. I
had to go to bed eventually at like 3 a.m. because I have a kid. So I was like, well, someone's got to take care of this little guy.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to have something else in life to like be responsible for. Because, well, I started getting house plants. That's my
there you go.
The level of responsibility I'm comfortable with. But that's I know I was losing it. I mean, at first I was definitely having flashbacks to 2016 when, everyone said Hillary's going to win, Hillary's going to win, Hillary's going to win. And then that night, well, at 9 p.m. or whatever, like Trump starts winning states. And it looked like that was going to happen again this time. Mm-hmm. Even though we all knew, like everyone said, like, oh, there's going to be a blue shift. It's a red mirage. Like, don't worry about it. Like he's going to, but somehow like, I guess like 4 years of like political doom for me has kind of, trained me to expect the worst.
Well, I was really hoping because, the polling was so dramatic. It was like 10 points here, billion points there. So when Florida fell to Trump, I was really hoping it would be like a swift knockout with the enormous lead he apparently had in the polls. But Trump, won Florida big time. And then I was like, okay, well, it's going to be a long night, but shit. Well, now that it's over, how are you feeling? Over, quote unquote.
I'm feeling pretty good these days. Like, I guess the first few weeks after, well, how many weeks has it been? It's been 1 month, I guess. The first couple of weeks, I was like, I don't think Trump's going to leave. Like, I think he's going to find some way to, I didn't, I mean, I guess it was paranoid a little bit, but yeah. I feel like it was paranoia, like sort of informed by the fact that the president was like, I'm not leaving. Like, makes you kind of like, that's not paranoia. Like, that's just what's happening. I guess the question is like, does he have the actual power to do what he obviously intends and wants to do? So it appears that he does not. But for a while, I was like, I can imagine a lot of scenarios where like if enough Republicans kind of lined up behind him and I don't know, he was somehow able to convince, like send different electors to the Electoral College or something really obscure like that. It looks like that's probably not going to happen. But I'm calming down a bit about it.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. I'm feeling like for sure he's going to leave, but I'm more worried about like he's just scorching earth. You know what I mean? On the way out, and it's like. People it's just so fucked up. But, what's kind of ironic is the Republicans in Georgia in this runoff that's so important are now losing faith in the election process. And I'm starting to see a lot of them saying, well, I'm just not going to vote because my vote doesn't matter. So if that's the case, then that would be the most poetic justice possible for his tantrum.
Well, it's kind of true that like... if you tell your base that the election's rigged, like the votes are all lies, like it's not like necessarily the best get out the vote messaging, like it's not good campaign messaging to say the election's fake.
It is good messaging to drum up violence though. And
it
like
is
sedition, which scares me a lot.
Well, stealing it!
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it.
That was good.
So I need to recover from that. I think there's so many people in this country who are kind of like close to the edge, especially if you look at like QAnon and like, I feel like a lot of people have been further sort of sent to extreme places by the pandemic. The fact that they are like sort of not socially connected to other people, and the kind of conspiracy theorizing has like no checks on it at all. And then you have like the president basically encouraging this, saying the election's stolen, and saying like, we're gonna basically, we're gonna take victory by whatever means necessary. I mean, he hasn't said that in those words, but he's implied it. And like, who knows what Trump means to say that by that? But I can imagine, several thousand people who are gonna hear that and think it's my patriotic duty to take up arms and like attack who knows what, an election center, I don't know, government buildings, like it just seems highly likely that there's going to be violence that will come of this.
Yeah, I would agree. But it sounds like you made a video saying, about voting, urging people on the left. A lot of people on the left are disenchanted, let's say, with like Joe Biden because he's too moderate. So well, what's the point? So you made a video urging them that it's important to vote for Biden. So what can you outline to me, like if Trump won in a second term, what is it about that second term that would be so horrible for you?
Well, I think if he had a second term, it would sort of embolden him to be sort of even more embolden him to even further disregard democratic norms, to be as, even more authoritarian, to be even more outlandish on Twitter. I say outlandish as if that's really the problem. It's not just being outlandish. It's being like, just sort of unhinged and cruel. And, it would potentially put him in the place to choose yet another Supreme Court nominee. And I don't know, there's a lot of like very dark implications that I see that having. I also, it would also give him longer. I don't believe Trump believes in democracy. I think he clearly does not. I think that I don't know, it would give him more time to basically, lay the groundwork for the Trump dynasty, basically. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be really, really horrible for democracy in this country. So, of course, we'll never really know, like the extent of the disaster that we just averted. But I think that it's like a huge step back from the edge of a cliff, basically. I'm not super enthusiastic about Joe Biden. I don't really know anyone who is, to be honest. But I feel like at least this like hits the pause button on the slide into hell and like lets us kind of like regroup and think about what to do next.
Well, I saw this headline of like George Bush, Bill Clinton, and Obama all together pledging that when the vaccine becomes available, they will all take it publicly to boost confidence. Like, these are normal presidents. Like, you may not agree with them, but they definitely care about democracy in the country. And we can all find that common ground at least. But
and like, I didn't even say anything about coronavirus. Like right. This president who like basically, I mean, he basically has said that like wearing masks is for sissies. Yeah. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, look at Joe Biden. He looks like such a pussy with his giant, mask. Like, like in the middle of this pandemic that's like killing at this point, what is it, like 3,000 people a day? Yeah. Like, it is just like the worst leadership you can imagine in this situation.
I believe he said 2 days before he got coronavirus about, look at Joe Biden. He wears the biggest mask I've ever seen.
The biggest mask, yeah.
So
now they say I'm immune.
So I love all the sworn affidavits, Rudy's sworn affidavits. There's some great clips that just came out. I think this morning I saw them. And, people, whenever I talk to people about like who doubt the finality of the election, they always talk to all the evidence of voter fraud and specifically the sworn affidavits. So, Ian, do me a favor and pull up this clip here. This is one of the people who testified with a sworn affidavit that Rudy Giuliani brought into court to testify. So we can finally get a peek in.
Like, a lot of people think all Indians look alike. I think all Chinese look alike. So how would you tell? If some Chow shows up, you can be anybody and you can vote. And if somebody with my name, you can't even tell my name. Anybody can vote. Like,
compelling stuff.
So the argument is that votes could be fake because how can you tell Chinese people apart? Is that the argument?
Yeah, ethnic groups all look the same. And she's like, "Listen, I don't blame you because I think all Chinese people look the same. It's just the way it is."
Hey, it's fine to not be able to tell people apart. I mean, it's just, yeah. Wow, that
Voter
sure
fraud.
is an argument. Yeah.
But what's great is that Rudy Giuliani was like, "I'm bringing this woman to court. She's compelling enough."
This is going to convince them. This is going to convince a judge, right?
Another one. By the way, he was cracking up next to her. I don't know that that's necessarily good. That the lawyer's laughing at his witness.
Is that what you want your witness to do? Is to entertain the courtroom? Like everyone just fucking rolling on the floor? I don't know.
Yeah. But what are we supposed to say? Like, how do we have a conversation with people that talk to the sworn affidavits? But this is the content of the sworn affidavit. So, like, how do you communicate to people that like are so fully convinced that the election was stolen? Which, by the way, last I checked, which was a few weeks ago, to be fair, but like 88% of Republicans think that the election was rigged.
88%. Yeah. I mean, I'm someone who I think of myself as someone who's like likes to try to communicate with people I disagree with, and I like to try to reach out to people who, I think have a backwards point of view and try to understand where they're coming from. But honestly, with people who support Trump in 2020, I've kind of gotten to a point where I feel like there's such a level of detachment from reality that I just cannot get through. Like, because I don't think that the issue, I guess, is that when it comes to like election fraud, I don't think they care about evidence. Like, I don't think they really care. Because if they did, like, they would be looking for some, and you can debunk each new piece of evidence they bring forward only for it to be replaced overnight with a new thing, and everyone forgets that the old one was debunked. So it's like this impossible task, like this hydra that you're trying to kill of misinformation, right? Where you say, there's this video of where it looks like, and you debunk the video, and that takes 6 hours of work on your part, and then everyone immediately forgets that was ever used as evidence that there's election fraud, because they move on to some new piece of evidence. So it's like, I don't know, they believe it because Trump says it, or they believe it because believing it leads them to reach the conclusions they want to reach, right? Which is that Trump should stay and we should find a way to keep him, right? Like, it's not about what's true. It's about like, how can we build an argument for the conclusion that Trump should be president despite losing an election?
How do we bridge the gap? Like, I mean, what's the remedy? I mean, I don't know. Last year with Obama, with Hillary, or when Hillary lost, there's always been a growing friction, but now it's like you said, it's like different sets of reality. I mean, how do you bridge that? I don't see how to overcome this. Maybe it's just something that over time kind of goes away, like, McCarthyism, and there's been eras in human history where shit just, kind of disappears. Maybe when Trump finally leaves, it all kind of just fade away. Do you think it will fade away, or is it something that's not going to go away?
I wish I thought it would fade away, but I don't. I'm really worried about this country, to be honest. Like, I think, I think that things have always been, it's easy to forget that there's always been these tensions. Like, I mean, this country had a civil war, 50 some 70, I guess 170 now years ago. And it's kind of, it kind of never stopped, like that some of these conflicts like never really resolved, like especially conflicts about like what is America's relationship with race, for example. Like, that's kind of an open question. It's never really been resolved. And I think that, the tensions kind of builds to these critical points, and it sometimes eases a little bit, but it's always there. But yeah, I do worry that it's gotten to such a point of division that there's not really much communication across the aisle. And it's like, it's kind of hard to see a way out of this that doesn't involve violence in some way. Now, because I really hate that. I don't know. I'm very averse to the idea of violence. I know, like on political internet, it's kind of become like fashionable lately to like fantasize happily about like the guillotine and revolutions and all this. And it's like, that's like such a bad thing to have to do, though. It's what I feel like people don't realize. Like, if you have to solve political crisis in your country with like, civil war, that's like the worst possible thing that can happen. It'll ruin like decades of all of our lives, and a bunch of people will die. Like, let's not do that. But I don't know. To me, I think it's about like reaching out, not to like a diehard Trump supporters, but like to like people who are kind of like not necessarily, because most people I don't think are super involved in politics, and you can kind of like Trump is doing things now that are very, very like outside all norms that we've ever had for this country. Like he basically is like, basically has decided to reject, the norms that make democracy possible. So I think that you can appeal to a lot of people by just being like, look, like, this is not how things work in this country. Like, we have always, this country was founded by people who wanted to show Europe that a democracy could work, or a republic could work anyway. And like, that means peaceful transfer of power. And if you are out here saying like, oh, we'll see if I lose the election, I don't know about that, I'll think about it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a pretty dangerous attack on like what is kind of the most basic principle of, how this country is supposed to run, not by a dynastic, family, not a king, not an aristocrat, but like by elections. That's how we're supposed to choose power. And if you reject elections, then it's like you're kind of rejecting like what is the basis of America. And I feel like that is something that most people in this country will ultimately they will reject someone who attacks democracy in that way. But there's plenty of people who won't, and it's definitely a scary situation.
Yeah, I feel like he found a way around it, because he said he's not. He convinced people he's not attacking democracy. He just got, it was a fraud. They're the ones attacking democracy, but that's kind of like the propagandist playbook. It's like, you're not doing what I'm doing. I'm not doing what I'm doing. You're doing what I'm doing. But
and you just yeah.
How do you fight a civil war, though? Like, how is that even logistically possible in the United States now? Like, back then they had cannons and muskets and shit, and like everything was kind of drawn out in a way where it's like north versus south. There was some kind of definable line, but like, how was a civil war even possible to be fought in the United States without like total annihilation? And like, whoever's the sitting president, the party, how can anybody reasonably rise up? Like, a bunch of dudes like with some home arsenals is not. There's not going to be, you know what I mean? Like, versus the government. It really just depends who's currently the president, I think, if it came to that level of violence.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. And again, like, you would really have to kind of ask someone who's like an expert on the military. All I can give you are my like dark, twisted fantasies. Like, I don't know. I guess I imagine like the nightmare scenario is you've got like cavalcades of like Trump SUVs like roaring up I-95 waving guns, and then just like, I don't know, Antifa like roadside bombs going off, and like I don't know.
Right.
Why is that so easy to imagine? Like, I guess at some point, obviously, like the military would be called in, there'd be tanks on the highways, and like I don't, so it's a kind of question of like, where is the military's loyalty going to lie? I actually think that, especially with Biden having won, I don't think the military will defend a Trump coup attempt. Like, even if he is claiming
Did you think
that
they would before? I didn't really think before.
I didn't think so either. Yeah. It was more a question of like, oh, is he going to be able to do it without like violence? The question is like, oh, is he going to be able to persuade enough people to go along with this, like, the election is a fraud line, that he's able to kind of like overturn the results of the election? That's more what I was worried about. But I can't imagine, I don't know, like, without having like total war, like I can still imagine a period of like frequent like skirmishes, we could say.
Yeah.
Like we kind of had all year, honestly, like with the clashes between protesters and riot police.
Just with guns this time.
Yeah, with guns. I mean, there's already kind of guns. There's Kyle Rittenhouse. There's, people driving cars, vans into crowds. There's the police firing, tear gas at it's escalated pretty far already.
What is the deal with this Kyle Rittenhouse? What am I missing about this dude? He drove from out of state. He murdered 2 protesters, and now the My Pillow guys is bailing him out. Literally, My Pillow guys put up $2 million bail for him. But what am I missing? What? How is this not clearly murder?
Well, it is clearly murder, but I think the people who support him think that it's like justified murder because they see it as like, I mean, and again, it sort of tracks some of Trump's rhetoric, right? Like, if these Democratic mayors won't keep their cities under control, then like we're going to send in the military and do it. And I think the people who admire Kyle Rittenhouse, they think of him as this like hero of like law and order who's like there to suppress the like unruly protests, right? Because this whole law and order line has been about like, oh, the real problem with this country is these crazy leftist rioters, these looters, these, we need to basically dominate them, right? That's what Trump was saying. He was doing like Palpatine tweets, just tweeting like domination and power in all caps. It was like coconut. So it was doing this back in July. Like I was like, this feels I feel so powerful. Yeah, not good. And like, and I guess.
He was giving off Palpatine vibes for sure.
Yeah.
Especially post-COVID with all the steroids.
Yeah. And I think that people see Rittenhouse as like, the vigilante version of this. It's a kind of weird, but it's like so nonsensical, right? Because on the one hand, you're saying, oh, law and order, that's what we care about is law and order. But on the other hand, you're saying, oh, it's great that vigilantes with guns are breaking the law by shooting people, right? If it's in the service of what their idea of law and order is, right. Which is, I mean, it's like what Martin Luther King said about like, like peace without justice. Like that's what they want. They want, they don't want justice. They want a peace that's founded on people simply like keeping quiet.
What do you think the left is doing wrong? Because like, you have what essentially is a bunch of rural working class people who are probably, for the most part, very poor, who are coming out in droves to support a guy has a apartment on the first floor of a Manhattan penthouse that's literally plated in gold and probably shits in a gold toilet. So how the fuck is this guy able to become the working class hero and the left is unable to get any of these people's votes? Like what is the left failing so desperately at?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts about that. One of them is that I think that a lot of Trump's, like a lot of, for instance, the counter protesters with guns that we're talking about, these people are not the like poor working class. Like weapons are expensive. Like you don't form a militia like on a
Apparently Rittenhouse used his stimulus check to buy the weapon.
So this was a socialized weapons purchase.
Yeah,
it's fabulous.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that, that's a real puzzle though, isn't it though? Like, why do like white people who are not like upper class at all, why do they see this like Vegas like esque like walking like gold toilet of a man? Like, why do they see him as like some kind of working class?
He doesn't care about them. He doesn't know anything about them. He wouldn't hang out with them. It's like the dude spends all of his time on these ultra luxury golf courses. Like the dude wouldn't fucking ever golf with you. He doesn't care about you. He never wants to hang out with you. He fucking never. He's never known anybody like you. Like he's literally a big town, ultra rich dude. Like
right, the height of like New York elitist, like rich father. Like Well, I think that these people know that. Like I think they're not dumb. Like they know that Trump doesn't represent them and that Trump doesn't really that Trump on some level doesn't really care about them. But I think that for some of them anyway, what it seems to be is it's almost like trolling. They like Trump because he pisses off the big media liberal types who don't represent them, and he pisses off what they see as the establishment, right?
I mean, I think that's true of some people on Twitter, right? But like, I'm talking about like rural people that don't use Twitter. They just and like if you drive through, cross country, all these states in the middle that are red is just Trump signs, MAGA everywhere. These people don't go on Twitter, like, but they love Trump, and it's not about Trump. They're not trying to make libs cry. They just love Trump.
Well, I think I think there is like still, even with like the West, Pennsylvania type people, like there is still this sense. I mean, this is like an old kind of like historic resentment in the US. Like along the East Coast, I know like the western part of all these states, the Carolinas, Virginia, Pennsylvania, like there's this like longstanding resentment of the East, right? All these states have capitals along the East, and the East is seen as cosmopolitan, as urban, as elitist, and as kind of almost like an oppressor, right, of their way of life. It doesn't represent them. And so I think it's kind of an enemy of my enemy situation where they know that Trump isn't one of them, but they do, like, even if you're not on Twitter, like Trump pisses off the people on CNN, for example, and they like that, right? They kind of like that he's like a middle finger to like political correctness and to, this is how they see it, of course, right? Is he actually, I don't know, but I feel like
it's so odd to me because like the Democratic platform is a platform that would directly help them. The Republican platform is a platform that would directly helps wealthier people. So it's like everybody's voting against their own interests somehow.
Yeah, well, I think I think it's like a very dark mindset that leads these people to vote for Trump. Like, I think on some level they're not expecting things to get better. And it's almost a kind of nihilism that's set in. It's like, well, at least we're gonna like, let's just burn it down. Almost, I think some people have that kind of attitude where, I think they think, oh, maybe the Democrats will help them with like healthcare and things, but they know the Democrats aren't going to bring back like coal jobs or manufacturing jobs. And there's this sense, I guess, of like loss of like pride and loss of dignity, loss of like obviously like financial standing as well. Not wanting just like what they see as like sympathy handouts, socialism, but wanting like, I don't know, this like America first rhetoric, I guess, appeals to them. People want to feel like the winner. People want to, I guess a lot of these people will attribute like sending jobs to China, for instance, for like taking away the industries that used to thrive where they live. I mean, and to some extent that's true, but a lot of it's also automation. So it's, it's not just that. But I think that, Trump's, China rhetoric kind of connects about that in that way. But, you'd think 4 years later when manufacturing has not in fact returned and like you'd think that they would start to get disillusioned with Trump. So I don't know. It is kind of, I mean, someone really should do, I'm sure there's people who do this. I should seek this out. People who do like interviews, go across the country and ask Trump supporters, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, ask All Gas No Brakes is kind of doing a pretty good job of that.
All gas, no brakes.
Hey, he's the one who told me, like, dude, he told me before the election, like, Trump is definitely going to win because I travel all around the country and everybody's maggot out. So he was pretty confident that Trump was going to win, but apparently he's got something coming out that should be really good. That's pretty much exactly what you just said. But I'm very curious about you as a person, if I can switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
Where did you grow up? Where are you from?
I grew up in a suburb of Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia.
Oh, Washington, D.C. Yeah. Is your family in politics?
No, they're not. Although many people in DC are. I knew like a lot when I was growing up, I knew a lot of people who were like the children of like lobbyists or the NRA, for example, which is in Northern Virginia.
Did that form your like do you think being around politics like that formed your kind of worldview as an adult?
Well, it was, I think probably to some extent, like it was definitely like very often discussed growing up. Like it's something that's on a lot of people's mind. I was in middle school when 9/11 happened, and I just remember the other kids crying in school because their parents worked at the Pentagon and they just heard that planes flew into the Pentagon. Like, so it is kind of like, it is very much on people's minds there. But I don't know to what extent that like necessarily influenced me now, except that it's made me sort of, I remember thinking about politics as early as being a kid. Yeah.
What do your parents do for a living, or do they share your politics as well?
Well, my mom's a medical doctor, and my dad's a college professor. and they are both Democrats. I would say that I don't know. Actually, I don't really talk politics for them, so I don't want to speak for them.
Interesting.
I feel like I'm maybe a little bit to the left of them in the way that, like, it's most young people have an obligation, I think, to be a little more left of their parents.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's not like I was raised in, like, I don't come from a conservative family.
Your college days kind of interest me because you were going for a PhD in philosophy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then
So
you bounced out. Existential boredom, I think you described it as.
Yeah. I really could not stand graduate school. Like, I don't know. I liked, well, I guess when I was in high school, I almost failed out of high school. I was a terrible student.
Really?
Yeah. Well, when I was in high school, all I cared about was music. Like, I played, several instruments, and I just wanted to play music all the time. I had a hard adolescence. I was very angsty, and, like, I dealt with that by playing music. So I actually tried to drop out of high school, but my parents and the school was kind of like, no, you're not doing that. But they kind of, like, made a deal with me where they let me take, like, music classes in high school. And so I managed to get a high school degree that way. I spent 2 years at a music college, Berklee College of Music in Boston, as a piano student when I graduated high school. I switched,
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, like, ask this question now because I'm about to move on.
Well, I'm just wondering what was so tough about your high school that you were, about to drop out of high school.
I think I was just very depressed as a teenager. Yeah. I was just having a hard time of it. And I dealt with that by kind of retreating into music. I didn't want to think about anything else. I didn't want to take math classes. I just wasn't having it.
Were you, like, confused about your gender identity back in high school? Was that part of the depression, or was it something else?
I think there's some of that. I think that it's hard exactly to say how much is what in retrospect. You know what I mean? Like, how much is this, like, gender angst that everyone says gets worse in adolescence? How much of it is, I don't know, like, clinical, like, depression, which I was, like, treated for pretty extensively at the time. I had a lot of, like, psychiatry growing up. My parents being in, my dad's a psychology professor, my mom's a doctor, so there was a lot of I mean, I started taking Adderall when I was, like, 8 years old, like that kind of a childhood,
I see. Does having doctors and your dad's a psychiatrist or like a therapist?
No, he's an academic psychologist,
okay.
but, like, both my parents, I think they kind of felt like a little bit qualified to, like, have, like, mental health judgments about their kids.
Yeah, what do you think about that, growing up with parents who feel like they can have this kind of, they feel like they can, diagnose you to some extent? Is that
Well, that was very much my experience. And some things I think they got right. Some things I think they got wrong. Like, I was kind of, what they got right is the depression stuff, like that was real. But I think I was, like, misdiagnosed as, like, OCD. And if you go back and, like, look at a lot of the things they were complaining about, they were calling me OCD rituals. They were like, oh, so I was a boy at the time, just in case people didn't pick that up. They would, at the time, that the psychiatrist would be like, oh, like, he spends too long with his hair, like, he spends too long, like, there's too much grooming, there's too much concern for, like, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't know, with this, I feel like that would not be seen as a psychiatric symptom if I had been born a girl,
No.
So
I
feel like
surprised it was, though. Even if you were a boy, it seems like a stretch.
It was too much. There was too much. It was a little bit too much psychiatry going on, for sure.
I have a member of my family who's younger, who was also prescribed Adderall at a young age, like similar years. And I always felt like, I personally was never comfortable with it. And I saw how she behaved when she was on it, and always maybe, like, I've taken Adderall. I mean, it's by no means a negligible drug. I mean, you could get fucked up on that drug.
I mean, I take it now sometimes, but it is speed. Like
Yeah,
it's
no,
like
it
you're getting
fucks
like
you up.
it kind of fucks you up. You're
Yeah.
wired as fuck. Like
Yeah.
it's more than coffee. Like it's
yeah.
it's like kind of wild to me that I was taking this when I was 8.
So I mean, looking back, what's your opinion on that? Because, like I said, it's just I can't imagine. To me, it seems like a hard drug. Like it's not even a soft drug.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to blame my parents too much because I think that they like their heart was in the right place. They thought they were doing the right thing, but I do think I was over diagnosed and over medicated as a kid and as a teenager.
Yeah, that's a tough situation. You
Yeah.
know, it's funny because you when you look at these kinds of movies like Garden State, was it?
Yeah.
And his dad, or I forget the exact details, but there's kind of a trope about the parent who's the psychiatrist or therapist or whatever, always diagnosing their kids and giving them drugs and fucking them up in that way.
Yeah, I think that the movies like that like tend to probably go a little too far in the other direction as in terms of being like psychiatry is bad, like throw your pills away, you don't need them. Like
That's
because
true.
obviously
That
like
was
these
kind
things,
of wasn't that like the ending of Garden State where
it's
you're like,
Garden State,
yeah.
yeah. Like I feel like that's like that's taking things too far. Like because obviously like these drugs, I don't know, it does help a lot of people, but I do think that especially with kids, like it's a little bit wild. I don't know. Are kids supposed to like? Are children like naturally? I don't know. I feel like that genetically we're not made to like sit in a room still for 9 hours and not move and not mess with our hair and not, you know what I mean? Like that's not a medical problem. That's just a kind of social expectation that we've thrust on 8-year-olds that we then try to fix them with drugs. And it's like,
I totally agree. I mean, looking back, I don't know how I made it through those years. Like waking up at 5 a.m, getting on a bus, doing like these are things today that I would rather die than do on a regular basis,
Yeah.
pretty much.
oh yeah, no, I think
Like the amount of hustle it takes to be a kid, to wake your ass up that early, spend a whole fucking day sitting in a desk, come home, do homework, probably not getting enough sleep too. You know, it's brutal, the regimen that they could take. So
yeah, I think like school used to start, it was like 7:20. School starts at 7:20. Like that's when I was in high school. Like
That's so early.
I think I can count on one hand like the amount of times in my adult life that I've gotten up for something at 7:20. Like
exactly.
part of that's that I've organized my life so that I don't have to. But
Me
but,
too.
you
I
know,
feel like my
yeah.
whole trajectory into adulthood was the simple objective of never having to wake up to an alarm clock ever again.
Yeah, I definitely had that. Like, I used to have like nightmares that I would end up with an office job. I feel like that motivated me in a lot of ways. Like to I tried to try all this stuff before finding something that actually worked as an alternative to that. But yeah, I just really didn't want that for myself, and so I basically my 20s was a series of attempts to not have to wake up before 10 a.m.
So what other jobs did you attempt?
Well, I guess when I mentioned going to music school. I dropped out after 2 years because at the time I came to feel that I just didn't have what it takes to be a professional musician. In retrospect, I quit way too soon because I think at the time I was thinking yeah, I'm okay at piano, but there's like 14-year-olds who are way better than me. So fuck it, I'm out. But in retrospect, I was like 20 years old. Like, shut up, baby, is what I want to say. Like looking back, like you can do from 20, you can do almost anything with your life.
Yeah.
But I was, I don't know. I also was getting curious about other things. Like at the time I was starting to watch YouTube back then. And I watched like all these like atheist YouTubers.
Oh yeah, I remember that era.
Well, yeah, I'm sure a lot of us remember, like I'm talking 2009,
What do they
2010.
call that? There was a name for the clique. It was like the
YouTube atheist movement, like YouTube skeptics.
Skeptics, yeah, the skeptics.
Yeah, skeptics. Yeah. So I used to watch that kind
Yeah, me
of
too.
content, and I guess honestly that played some role in like getting me interested in philosophy. I was like, oh, like, you know, I guess I got sort of interested in that, and I was like, oh, maybe I should actually go back to school and like go to like a school and like, you know, learn about that instead of doing this music thing. So I kind of went to community college for a year. I worked as an assistant in a neuroscience lab, and I went to then I transferred and I to Georgetown, where I got my undergraduate double major in philosophy and psychology. I worked really hard at that because I think I was trying to like compensate for the fact that I was so bad at being a student in high school. Like I was like, no, I'm going to show that like I had like I graduated like Georgetown like I don't know 3.5 or 3.6 or something GPA. Like I was getting like straight A's some semesters. I was such a little tryhard. I think as I felt like I had something to prove.
Yeah. So at what point, I know you transitioned kind of, or what age were you? You were a little bit later, in your late 20s or something?
I mean, I transitioned basically on YouTube. Like I started when I was 28.
So I want to, I personally I don't think I know any trans people personally. So I want to ask you questions about this, but part of me is like, I'm afraid to talk to you about it in a way because I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing and then getting canceled on Twitter.
Okay,
You know
well,
what I
I'm not
mean?
gonna. I won't cancel you. I won't cancel you on Twitter.
but I'm
You're afraid that other people will. Yeah.
I'm yeah. But you do know what I mean? Like I feel like people maybe are afraid to even talk about the issue because it's so sensitive and it's kind of like a new issue socially too, if I can even say that.
Well, it's not a new issue, but it's people's awareness of it on a large scale is kind of new. Yeah.
If I can just
I mean, like, I guess there's been times in history when people have become aware of it again. Like in the 50s, there's a trans woman called Christine Jorgensen who I guess transitioned and like had all these surgeries in, I think, Denmark, and like she was in all like the American newspapers, and like it became sort of a famous thing. But yeah, it's a kind of, I guess it's definitely at a new level, like where it's in terms of people's awareness of this, and part of that's that traditionally, like what trans people do basically is try not to be seen, basically. There's always this sense that like if you actually want to transition and live a life in a new gender, like you need to change your name, you need to move cities, you need to cut all ties, you need to not tell anyone that you're transgender, basically. And I feel like what's happened in the last couple of decades is we've kind of decided that that's actually a kind of like very repressed existence. And like we should be able to be open about who we are, and we should be able to talk openly about these experiences. So you have, a lot of more trans people sort of who are willing to do that, which of course comes at a cost to us because a lot of people are not like very sympathetic to trans people.
Right.
So if people know that you're trans, like they're going to be an asshole about it. So that's, that's the trade-off. You're being honest, but now you have to deal with the consequences of that honesty.
Yeah, it seems like a very shameful thing, like you described before. Like you have to move to a new city and all this.
Yeah.
And did you feel when you started to become? Well, let me step back. Like, when did you first start becoming like confused about your gender? Let's say, or maybe I don't even know if confused is the right word.
It's a difficult thing to describe. I mean, I had feelings about sort of gender, I guess, mismatch, I guess we could say, since like childhood. I guess it became more of a thing in adolescence where I don't know. I was attracted to women when I was a boy, but I guess which is unlike some trans women who live as gay men first. But I guess I would say I never wanted to be a man to a woman. And I have this kind of, I can remember sort of, I think there's something inherently kind of feminine about me. I remember sort of training my voice to sound more masculine, to sound more like, to be able basically to not be like noticeably like feminine as a boy, which sometimes I was doing more successfully than other times. I guess I didn't really have I didn't sort of know what being trans was until my 20s. I think I sort of vaguely was aware of it, but it's not an attractive thing is what it seemed like to me. Because, when you see it in media, you see it, like we're talking about the early 2000s, like it's not so, it's like, Brian vomiting on in Family Guy or whatever. Like, it's not like you don't see that on TV and you're like, oh, I want to be that. Like, I want to be that. I want to be that like dead sex worker in SVU. That's my future.
That's
like,
how you thought about it?
It's hard to identify with that. So I don't know. I didn't know what was wrong with me. Like, I guess in my 20s, I used to like cross dress in bars and like I was doing like these things that I sort of didn't really have a great explanation about why I was doing them.
But the thing is, you're attracted to females. So when you cross dressed into a bar, you weren't looking to pick up guys. You were just wanting to feel the experience of being a female.
Yes, and I guess I did like. I guess I did sort of, I don't know, people would sort of pay attention to me as a joke, I guess, like men would buy me drinks and things. I would sort of enjoy this. It's hard for me to think back on this stuff because it's like, I kind of just like repress this stuff now because I just like don't want to think about it. But Why? You find it embarrassing or? Yeah, I find it,
you feel?
I find it like shameful, I guess.
Oh.
And I guess I kind of struggle with that a lot. Like, because it's cringe. Like, it's cringe to have yourself to like not figured yourself out to such an extent that you're doing things that are sort of baby steps in the direction of like what's eventually going to be your social identity, but in this really like awkward way.
But can you forgive yourself for doing that in the fact that you were kind of just desperately trying to figure out what you were going to go through? To me, it doesn't seem cringy. It seems like someone who's trying to, figure out their identity one way or the other, who doesn't know what's going on.
I think that would be the psychologically healthy way to do it. Yes.
Yeah. I don't find that embarrassing. If anything, I think it's incredibly brave to do that. I would be scared to do something like that.
Well, I used to just be like blackout drunk when I was down. That's another.
But even still, it's like to have the courage to go do that and to try to express yourself like that is scary. I mean, it's terrifying. Yeah,
it was scary, and it was scary to me. I kind of would go through these stages of like being more brave about it and then being a coward. Like I know there was a while in my mid-20s when I was basically like, I was presenting as this kind of like gender fucked, like, I don't know how to describe. I guess we call it gender queer now, but basically I was like only shopping in the women's section for 1 year.
Right.
And like, I wasn't being perceived as a woman. I wasn't identifying as a woman. I was still using like a male name, but like my nails were painted. I was wearing jewelry and like, I was kind of okay with that for a while. But I just kind of the like, again, it's like, there's this like shame, and I was like, no, this is crazy. Like I was also very judgmental of other, like gender nonconforming people, I guess. That's another, so something that's true, I think, for a lot of LGBT people is that like a lot of us go through a stage where not only do we want to pass as normal, but we also kind of participate ourselves in the homophobia or the transphobia and bigotry. Like, and this is like another I'm definitely not proud of this, but like I was like grossed out by other people like me. You know what I mean? And there's a sense of like, no, I'm not going to give into this. I wouldn't call it degeneracy. I mean, I wouldn't have said that explicitly, but I felt it,
When you say people like me, you mean like people who were fully transitioned or people who were like kind of cross-dressing?
People who are gender nonconforming in a like
just
really
everybody in that broad category.
Yes, I would say especially people who are sort of assigned male, but who are presenting in like an ambiguous way. Like I can remember being in Chicago where I was kind of being like, I don't even know. I mean, at the time I would probably just call myself like a full-time cross-dresser, which sounds like in retrospect, I have to like shake my head at this, like a full-time cross-dresser. Are you listening to yourself? Like, but I remember seeing like a trans woman on the L in Chicago, the train, and just being like, nope, like I can't handle this. I can't be that. I don't want to look like
that you thought was so like that you hated so much. What was it that you saw?
I saw, I guess it was a person who I saw sort of a freak, basically, like a deviant, abnormal, someone possibly delusional. Does this person think they look like a woman? Well, they don't. And I can tell that. Everyone can tell
Right.
that. I don't want to be this delusional, crazy person. You know?
It was the issue of, can you pass as a woman for real? It's kind of holding a mirror up to yourself and your deepest fears about if you could actually pass.
Well, I think you just kind of nailed it, because I think that there's a lot of different reasons why people cross-dress. In my case, it was because of this gender dysphoria that I didn't have, I wasn't quite being honest with yet. Because the truth is that I wanted to pass, and I've always that's always been something I kind of cared about, and I was kind of like, but I didn't think that I could. And at the time, I didn't have the skills to, and so when I saw other, either trans women or however they were defined, I guess probably trans women who didn't pass, I kind of saw like, oh, that's me. Like, that's what I look like. And it's wrong. I don't want to be that. Which I think is probably one reason why, like, once I actually started my medical transition, I did kind of prioritize being able to pass as female, because it's, I guess this is an ugly thing. Like, I don't endorse this at all. Like we absolutely, as a society, need to be kinder to people who are presenting ambiguously. But I guess I myself internalized that to the point that I was horrified by the idea that I would be presenting as a man in a dress, for example.
It's such a hard thing to do, though, because like I said, it takes so much courage to first go out into the world like that, because there's so much attention on you, so many people judging you.
Yeah.
And then something so painful inside of you has to be pushing you to do that. So it's kind of like you're getting shit internally and externally. I always hear about people who are dealing with gender dysphoria. Is gender dysphoria a good way to say it? Because I don't know if trans people use that, or because I've heard people who are against trans, who think you shouldn't be trans, use that term to just dismiss it as oh, it's just a mental illness. But you use that term.
Yeah, it's still kind of a medical term, gender dysphoria, which just describes basically distress at being in some way feeling like you're not the right gender. Either you're living in the wrong gender role, your body is wrong. It can take a lot of different forms. I think that this is it's an accepted notion in the trans community that this is a thing that exists. There's a lot of debate about oh, do you need dysphoria to be trans? That gets really complicated. I won't go into that, but I think that for me, there was always this this sense of kind of existential, almost wrongness about the way I was living, and this longing to, I guess, to get out of it and overcome it. But at the same time, it took me a long time to understand that that was something I could actually do. And I guess what eventually really helped me was YouTube, and seeing other people do it made it more real, because it kind of seems like magic when you don't know how trans people transition.
Right.
It's
interesting.
It's hard to imagine doing it yourself until you see someone do it.
So I guess the thing about gender dysphoria that I was getting to is I guess people who suffer, or I don't know if you say suffer, but who have gender dysphoria tend to be having higher suicide rates, more depression, more anxiety. Is that true as far as you know? That's true, right?
Yes, it is. It's true that trans people have very high rates of suicide, attempted suicide, depression. And I think that's a mix of things. One is that the condition of being trans for a lot of people is itself quite, it's complicated and painful. But a lot of it is that the society that we live in really piles on top of that a lot of unnecessary hate and discomfort and difficulty and shame. And that is, I think, a huge contributing factor also.
I think so too. Because I think if you look back at when homosexuality was kind of characterized as some kind of deviant mental illness, I mean, it was considered a mental illness not that long ago.
Yeah, until the 70s, yeah. And
so I think if you look back, you probably see similarly high suicide rates and depression and anxiety amongst them,
That's what you would, yeah.
So it is a societal thing, because society is meant to make you feel like what you're doing and what you're feeling is wrong. And then, well, even more than that, in my opinion, is it's instilling in you a feeling of wanting to fight yourself, which is always kind of the most damaging thing one can do to themselves.
Yeah, that's and I think that really accounts for a lot of the the kind of the depression and shame and suicidality is that you come to basically be an accomplice of your own oppressors, right?
Yeah.
In terms of beating yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like something that's definitely been a consistent thing in my life.
So now that you've kind of, how many years into your transition are you?
Medically, 3.5.
Okay.
So I've been doing this full time for 3.5 years.
By the way, I'm curious. You considered it magic. So now that kind of on the other side of doing this medically for 3 years, like, what kind of medicine do you take, and what was the process like in the onset? Or well, first of all, was there anything that made you decide like, okay, I'm just going to do this?
Well, I think that I started this YouTube channel in 2016. And like the persona, I decided, you know what, I'm just doing this channel in drag, basically, because I had reached a point where I was like kind of like a fuck it moment in my life, where I was like, well, like I'm 27 or 28 years old. Nothing I've done so far has succeeded. Like at this point, why hide this part of myself? Like what do I have to lose? Basically was the thought. So, but YouTube gave me it really did give me a way to get more and more like comfortable sort of feeling out my femme self. Like, because I guess initially I would kind of play it off almost as a joke. That's in a way you kind of evade sort of the worst of the danger of it. Like, oh, this is, or like it's part of the persona, part of the character. Yeah. But then I kind of realized that like I'm using this persona to be myself. Mm-hmm. And once I realized that, I guess I couldn't sort of imagine going back again. And I had, I guess before I came out as like a trans woman, I came out as like gender queer. So that basically that meant I was like not a man, not a woman. I don't know what I am, basically. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that, because some people who identify as genderqueer, that they do know who they are. That's who they are. They've spent years figuring it out, and they're comfortable with that. They're comfortable existing in this non-binary gender space. In my case, I wasn't really comfortable with that. That was just a stepping stone on the way to figuring out that I just wanted to transition, and I think it also helps that I kind of met a lot of trans people through, because like trans people could kind of tell that I was like what's called an egg. That's like in the term for the trans community, it means like a trans person hasn't hatched yet. Like a trans person who's like going through a lot of the like dysphoria or gender nonconformity or the kinds of like precursors that are sometimes a transition, but who hasn't like yet realized this thing about themselves. A lot of trans people could see that in me, and so it sort of became friends with some of these people, and I learned about their stories. I learned how they did it, how they transitioned, and that's kind of how I was able to find out what to do, basically.
And so what did you do? Do you go to like a doc? Like, is there a specialty doctor that you start seeing?
Well, what I did initially is I started taking black market hormones. So I started ordering, I guess it's called the gray market, because basically you're ordering overseas prescription hormones. So it's two things that you start taking if you're MTF, male to female. One is a testosterone block, an anti-androgen. So it blocks the testosterone. It lowers your blood level of testosterone down to like a biological female level. And then the other thing you take is estrogen, which raises your estrogen levels to a biological female level.
Is there any danger in lowering it? Like you were born a man. I don't know the biology, but I know like in men, adult men whose testosterone goes super low, it can cause like medical complications. Do you experience stuff like that?
Well, it is important. You have to have some kind of sex hormones in your body, or it is dangerous. So you need either testosterone or estrogen. Oh, okay. So if you have estrogen, that kind of fixes some of the problems that happen if you just have very low testosterone. Like for instance, like I don't know. It's been a while since I learned about the specifics of this, but it's like bad for your bones to like not have any sex hormones or not have high enough levels. It's pretty like there's like some side effects of doing testosterone blockers especially. But for me, there's really been no significant complications. Like it changes more than your body though. Like it changes your moods, it changes your sex drive, like it changes all kinds of things.
Interesting.
Gender is not just a social, like it is a social construct, but the biological sex is a real thing. And when you change your hormones, it changes a lot of stuff with that.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
So you're taking the blocker, and you're taking the estrogen. Are these injections? How do you take this?
I just take them as a pill. Some people do injections.
Injections seem scary, especially if you're getting shit from like the
That's
black
what I
market.
think too.
Yeah.
Is that injections? I'm afraid of needles, so I'm like, well, I'll just do pills.
I didn't know you could do pills. Go pills.
Yeah. It's.
And so, what did you first start feeling like when you're? I'm really curious about. You said that you're having different moods and sexual drives and all this. I'm really curious about the differences that you started to feel.
Well, when you lower your testosterone, I mean, it does what you'd expect. Like it lowers your sex drive, for sure. And I would, a lot of people report conflicting things. Some people say that they feel more emotional, that they cry more when you have estrogen. Also, you might be slower to anger. I mean, it's kind of like the opposite of what like steroids would do, where you're like raising your testosterone and roid rage or whatever. I guess physically, it sort of, your skin gets smoother and kind of, it really changes the texture of your skin. It changes the texture of your hair, especially your body hair. You have like less body hair that starts to go away. You start growing breasts, and it kind of redistributes the fat on your body. So like, whereas men tend to kind of like accumulate more body fat around the gut, like women will accumulate more of it like in the hips, for example. So you sort of notice these changes in the shape of your body.
That's amazing. What did you feel when you first started noticing this stuff? Did it feel like, I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It felt like magic.
Yeah,
it is incredible. I mean, it's like, it's almost kind of annoying to be around someone who's in that early part of transition, because it's all they want to talk about. And it's definitely all I wanted to talk about. Like it's those first few months when you're on hormones, it's like, oh my God, it does feel like a miracle. Like it's hard to believe that it's happening. But I guess I've kind of gotten so used to it now that it's like lost that sense of magic. Yeah. But definitely, when I started it seemed like magic. And
so now you have to continue to take these, I'm assuming, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I have to continue to take these basically for the rest of my life, both of them, until I get with what we now usually just call bottom surgery, which used to be called like having a sex change. But basically, if you don't have, to get really anatomical about it, like if you do not have male gonads, your body is not producing testosterone, so you don't have to take the testosterone blocker anymore.
So is that do you have that goal for yourself to get that surgery?
I do, yeah.
And
just FYI, don't ask trans people about that. I don't care.
Really?
But a lot of trans people don't want to talk about like what surgeries they want to get.
Oh, okay.
I don't care, so don't worry about it.
I apologize. I guess that was my fear of going into this conversation, is that I don't know what.
Well, I'd rather you not. I'd rather you talk through this without feeling like you can't ask questions, because I feel like, especially when you're doing a podcast, like it's valuable to educate people about this stuff.
I am super interested. I have no firsthand account of any of this stuff, and my intentions are I truly am extremely curious and super empathetic with your journey. So I hope I'm not offending anyone.
No, you're not offending me.
But I'm curious. So your intention, if you give me permission to ask this question, is do you remove everything or just the gonads?
Well, so bottom surgery has gotten very sophisticated for male to female transitions. What they can do is they can basically create a surgically constructed vagina and labia and clit. So
wow.
It's gotten very sophisticated. They've been doing this, I guess they first started doing these surgeries in like the 1930s. And back then it was,
Really?
yeah,
Holy
that's when
shit.
the first one was 1930s. It was very crude back then. But it's been almost 100 years that surgeons have been doing this now. So it's gotten very fancy. Like there's versions of it now that are done with robots. And it's different surgeons have like different methods, but a lot of the people's results now are very good. Like they're sexually functional. You can have orgasms. Like, so it's not, some people think, oh, it's just a wound. You're just creating a hole, or like, no, it's not that. It's much more sophisticated than that. The results, they look pretty natural and they're pretty functional.
So your intention is to do that. What are you waiting for? I guess is my wonder.
Basically, I had like facial surgery a year ago, a year and a half ago, and that was kind of my first priority because, well, I'm a YouTuber, so but I think that surgery was tough, and it's kind of maybe like I need a break before I do more surgery.
Tough in what way? Like just painful and
it's
long?
painful, difficult, and like kind of terrifying. Like going into a major surgery is scary. Like the night before, because this is the first time I'd had a major surgery. So the night before I was like, it kind of set in like, oh God, like tomorrow they're going to like cut into my face and saw my bones down. And it's like, that's like in the abstract, you're like, okay, let's do that. But then when you think about it happening to your skull, you're like, oh, it makes you, you almost feel faint just thinking. I'm also just squeamish. Like I'm a little baby about this kind of stuff. So,
well, and I would imagine that the other surgery we just talked about would probably be even a scarier prospect.
Yeah, it's a major surgery.
Yeah,
So it takes like a month to recover. People, you're on your feet in a couple weeks. But yeah, and the other thing is that the wait lists for these things can actually be quite long. So
the wait list, really?
Yeah.
So
a lot of surgeons.
there's probably not a lot of doctors that specialize in that. Is that the issue?
Yeah, it's a very specialty thing. I mean, it used to be the case that a lot of girls would go to Thailand to get it done because there are these.
It's common there. There's a lot of
yeah. There's a kind of I guess a culture of sort of trans women there, and a lot of doctors who cater to it. And so some of for a long time, like the Thai surgeons were actually the best. So you would go there to get, it was Dr. Suporn was his name.
There's just one guy doing it.
Yeah, there's just one guy doing it. Just hundreds or thousands of trans women have been through this one guy. But a lot of American surgeons have gotten quite good in the last decade.
So what kind of surgery did you have in your face, if I can ask that? I'm kind of curious. This was an issue to help, because we talked briefly about like you're wanting to pass as a female. Was this basically to make you look more female, the facial surgery?
Yes. So facial surgery is like it's kind of a controversial thing, right? And that's true even if you're not trans. Like if you suppose you're a woman and you have like a very angular nose and you get a rhinoplasty to make it more like straight, or there's definitely people who have negative feelings about that because there's people who say like, oh, well, you're just trying to replicate this like Eurocentric beauty standard, like and all this kind of thing, right? So there's definitely like a trans version of this where people say like, no, like the goal of being trans should not be to look the same as a cis woman. But it's ultimately, I think it's a personal choice, right? It's, for me, that there was a lot of reasons why I wanted to have the facial. I can tell you exactly what they did. They kind of sort of shaved down my brow bone so that if you look at like a lot of like people in profile, you notice that on average, men tend to have a more prominent, like stronger brow, and they also kind of narrowed my jaw a little bit. I used to have like a more kind of square chin. It's now pointy. They did it's called a trachea shave, where basically it's like I have a little scar here where they like basically like make your Adam's apple smaller. Wow. So it looks more like a cis woman's throat. So that's what I did. And basically it makes it sort of easier for me to read to people as female. So I used to feel like when I left the house, I felt like I couldn't leave the house without a full face of makeup, like because I was so anxious about like, oh God, like how are people going to perceive me? Are they going to see me as a woman? Am I going to get clocked? Am I going to get yelled at if I go to the bathroom? There's all these kinds of anxieties that you have about, it's not just vanity like some people think. Maybe there's a little bit of vanity, but like it's not just vanity, right? Like it's like a lot of trans people have safety concerns, and if you're able to be less detectable, like it can make your life
You
easier
feel more
and
yourself.
safer.
Beside that, you feel like more yourself. I totally understand that.
Yeah, and then there's also that, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, this was something that I'm very happy I did it. I have no regrets. But
You had all that done in one session.
In one session,
So that sounds absolutely brutal.
It's terrible.
Oh my goodness!
Like
was your face all bandaged and everything?
It was, like full head of bandages, exactly.
God, and like, how do you even file down the forehead? Because like, you must have had a huge. I don't know how they do that. That's crazy.
I don't want to get too like gross out about it, but they basically, I mean, surgery it's amazing like what they can do. Basically, they do an incision behind your hair.
Oh.
And they go under.
Whoa.
They could have peel your forehead down.
Holy shit.
It's like it's scary, but like they're good at it. And so like basically, I used to have there was kind of like almost like a bald spot here where the incision was across the top of my head. That's gone now because the hair has grown over it. So you can't even notice that there's no scars. It's it's like the result is very like you can't tell that surgery happened.
Wow. That sounds wow. All that at one time. How long did it take you to recover?
I would say it was about 10 days of recovery, and then like swelling that lasted another month.
Right.
It's not as bad as you might think, although it's the first 3 days that are really horrible.
So now that you're kind of on the other side of, not entirely, I guess there's still more to go, but like you've come a long way, right? From those first days. So how are you feeling now about being a female and like you talk about you were depressed before and all this, like, has it helped a lot of do you feel better? Like just generally?
Yeah. I would say that it's helped exactly one area of my life. It's helped the gender problem. That was kind of a defining thing for my whole adult life up until this. It really has helped. But I'm not going to say that, it solves all your problems. Like, no, it doesn't solve all your problems. Like if anyone's thinking of going into transition because it's going to solve all your problems or give you a new identity, it doesn't do that. It doesn't do that at all. In fact, it adds a lot of new problems in a lot of ways. I guess I'm in a weird situation because I've kind of transitioned very much, on YouTube, basically. So it's been very much in the public eye. And so with that comes a lot of scrutiny, a lot of judgment, a lot of responsibility when it comes to other trans people see you, like not just as an individual person, but like they see you as doing the work of kind of representing them to the public. And so if you do something they don't like, if you say something they don't like, then they feel you're kind of fucking them because you're misrepresenting them. So that's a tough situation to be in because it's like, I can't just be myself. And I kind of found a way to find a new like closet to get into when I transitioned, because once I transitioned, I started dating men because I sort of, I don't know, there's this anxiety that I had about like, I have to show the world that I'm really a woman. And like, that means trying to be like, it's almost, you leave like one gender prison and you kind of move into a different one. This is what happened to me anyway, where now I'm kind of like, I feel this like obligation to be like a gender conforming woman in every respect, which included dating men. So I did that for a couple years before realizing like, actually like the people I'm usually attracted to are other trans women. It's a form of gayness that straight people haven't even found out about yet.
So you're not attracted to like cis females. You're mostly attracted to trans females like yourself.
Well, I'm actually I would say I'm attracted to both, but I'm mostly interested in dating trans women because I don't know, this might change later in my life, but at the moment, there's a kind of lot of reasons why I find it just easier to date trans women. Like we have this kind of shared understanding of this like background and this journey. Like there's a lot of stuff that you have to explain to a partner who isn't trans that you kind of just don't with someone who's trans. So to me, I don't know, I like being with trans women because I just find it sort of very relaxing, I guess, in a way that I would sort of, And there's also a kind of like, I don't know, in some ways I would always worry if I was with a cis woman, I'd always kind of worry that about being like, like the more like male part. I mean, I know that's like not like a healthy worry, but like it's just like a subtle psychological thing that it's like, it's kind of nice to not worry about that. To not worry about the difference between my body and the body of my partner.
So when you first transitioned, you felt compelled to date men just because you want, like, it goes to show how complicated it can be. There's all these things, and especially the social pressure, because I think a lot of people would say, okay, so you're trans female, but you're attracted to female. They might be like, that sounds ridiculous. Like, why would you
I think a lot of people think that is ridiculous. I think that in that sense that it's ridiculous, I think probably caused me to not transition sooner in some ways, because it does seem like, I guess it seems to people like the point of transitioning is to be attractive to men, but it's not. Like, if you want to attract men and you're born male, there's a lot of men who are into men and you can attract them. So people who transition, it's not just about who you want to attract. It's like rarely really about who you want to attract. It's about like who you are, like how you want to experience the world, and like who you are as a person. What kind of body do you feel at home in? What kind of social role do you have to perform? Although I should say social role is sort of different from gender. I'm not talking about gender stereotypes, because obviously like I'm not a stereotypical woman in a lot of ways. Stereotypical women don't date women, for instance, right? But yeah, I think to me, it wasn't just the shame of it that led me to date men. I sort of, I guess there was, I made a whole video about this called Shame on my channel, where I talk about like my experience dating men, and like there are things I genuinely liked about it. Like I think I'm someone who has like a sexuality that's at least a little bit fluid, to the point where like, I don't know, I guess I call myself like a gay trans woman, a trans woman who's attracted to women. But I would say that like I'm not I'm not the least bisexual person. I guess you could put it that way. Like I haven't enjoyed like sexual experiences with men, even enjoyed dating men. It's just that I feel like that's kind of like not really the right. I'm trying to think if people are going to be mad at me because I'm like misrepresenting lesbianism or something. But I just wish I could identify as nothing sometimes, so I could just not represent anybody.
It's so complicated. Your life is so complicated. I mean, it's like this is the part that's so challenging for me, and like someone who's just honestly trying to understand it. And I can only imagine in your case, it's like you're someone who's honestly trying to convey who they are and how they feel, and yet there people can be so judgmental. Maybe it's just because the position you're in is so sensitive. So I don't want to judge them for being judgmental, but like I know that people have gotten mad at you for things that you've said about being trans, and it's like you like you said, you're escaping one cage, you're entering another one. It makes it hard to have conversations when we're all on eggshells, I feel like, and I don't know if you agree, or maybe I'm just being overly.
Yeah, no,
maybe it's easier for me to say because I'm on the outside looking in,
I think to some extent that's true. It is very, very difficult to talk about these things in public in this day and age. And you're right, there's a lot of judgment coming from a lot of directions. Like there's a lot of people who would want to there's a lot of people who are very confident that they know who and what I am, despite the fact that they've thought about this for 10 seconds and I've thought about this for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people will say, well, if you're a trans woman, well, you're just a gay man in denial. And then I say, well, I'm attracted to women. So they say, well, you're just a straight man in denial. And it's like, well, but I'm not though.
Yeah.
Like it's
why would you go through everything you've done?
Yeah.
If you're just a man in denial, that's just silly. Right. Like I don't know why people have such a hard time.
I think people just haven't thought it through that well. Like, and it's, I guess when you hear about it in the abstract, it's kind of hard to it's hard to imagine. Like I think you hear, oh, some people have surgery to change their gender, and you think, what? Like having surgeries doesn't make you a different gender. Like you know, like which is true actually. It's having surgeries doesn't make you a different gender. To understand like where trans people are coming from, like it's you know, you don't want to. I hate to say like corny things, like it's about your soul, but it kind of is at the end of the day. Like it's about how you experience the world, how you experience your body, how you experience relationships with other people. It's not easy to translate that into some simple explanation, right? Of like, oh, here's what being trans is. Just accept it. I guess my hope is that I kind of describe my experiences to people, and they will kind of they'll find something, they'll be able to empathize with what I've experienced and hopefully understand it a little better, because I hope that makes them sort of less eager to tell them like, oh no, they've got me figured out. They know what I really am. Right.
Although it is possible through people like you talking so openly about it, that something so complicated and hard to put into words can just become maybe a shared common knowledge. I think maybe, I hope. And like, you know, I don't know how long it takes, but when you say I'm a trans lesbian or however you refer yourself, people actually know what that means and don't try to tell you who you are.
Well, I agree. That's also my hope. And I think that YouTube is kind of fabulous for that kind of thing exactly because there's a lot of talk about like parasocial relationships between creators and their fans, which means like when your people are fans of a YouTuber, well, you kind of feel like you know them on some level. Like, I mean, I've experienced this myself as like a viewer of YouTube, like a creator. If I watch a lot of someone's videos, it's like this almost delusion that they're your friend, you know, you feel like you know them because you know so much about them. And obviously that can lead to these problems where people feel like entitled to tell you what to do with your life because they feel like, you know, you're friends or whatever. But the positive side of it, as I see it, is, you know, most people, like you said, like probably don't know a trans person. They're not friends with a trans person. But if they follow your YouTube channel, they watch your videos for, you know, 20 hours or whatever, over that time, like people sort of that parasocial thing actually kind of can work because it helps people better understand the experiences that they might never have access to otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Especially so like intimately as you and with such detail as you can talk about it on YouTube, right? And that I think gives people a kind of portal into our world that I hope leads people to be a little bit more understanding.
I think you have done an incredible, momentous job of normalizing being trans. I mean, you have this huge presence on YouTube. You're extremely popular. You talk about all these I mean, I have a hard time thinking of many other people who have done so much good for normalizing what it means to be trans as you have.
Well, I hope that, I guess I tend not to think about it because it's like, well, maybe you understand because you're also like an influencer. Like if you think about your influence, it's hard to function. You know what I mean? Like if you make a video and you know that like, okay, 1 million people are going to watch this video. Well, 1 million people, that's like Madison Square Garden seats, 20,000 if it's full. So that's like 5 consecutive Madison Square Gardens. Like, do I have anything that I feel comfortable saying to that crowd? Like, oh God, no, right? You can't think about it or you'll go crazy. But I know, I guess I feel I do hope that I've, you know, used my podium base here, like for something good. And I do have to remind myself sometimes that it does matter. It's not just. It
does. It really does. Yeah. I from my point of view, I think, you know, it does. But again, you can't think about your influence. You're totally right. For me, I always ignore it. But maybe it's just me trying to pay you a compliment or something. I don't know.
Well, I'll take the compliment. Thank you.
When this maybe is in the weeds, but I know that there's like. Do you feel like trans people are sometimes fetishized in like pornography or popular media? And then when you're in the dating world, let's say you're dating guys, do you ever wonder like, is this guy into me as a person or is he like fetishizing me? Is that a thought that comes to your mind? Is that a problem in the trans world?
Yeah, this is a major issue, I would say. I think a lot of men probably first really encountered the concept of a trans woman in porn, like because it's a very popular category. It comes up, like, and a lot of times that's not the greatest introduction because it does present trans women in a very like fetishized way, right? And that can even like go into like the language that's used. Like I'm going to say bad words now, so Twitter just ignore this part. But like it's categorized as like tranny porn, she-male porn, right? Which I think I think like if this is how you go around the world thinking about trans women, she-males, trannies, like it's kind of it's a little bit of a dehumanizing perspective,
Right.
and a lot of trans women will be irritated, well, more than irritated, like if they get the sense that you just want to date them out of some experiment of, I'm curious to be with a chick with a dick, right? Like that's not, what is a trans woman going to get out of that? She's just giving you an experience? Like, no, because trans women want what everyone else wants. We want to be valued for ourselves. We want to be loved. We want to be, we want to have relationships. We don't just want to be someone's like exotic sex tourism for a night.
The fact that it's so popular in porn sites, what do you think about that? Like, is that good? Is that bad? Like, what does that mean that it's turned into this porn category?
It means a lot of men are liars. it means that well, maybe not liars. I shouldn't. That's too judgmental. But I would say there's a lot more men who are attracted to trans women and trans women's bodies than are publicly open about that fact. I would say that we talk about the shame of being trans. There's also shame attached to being attracted to trans people, and a lot of people find themselves attracted to trans people, and then they don't kind of know what to make of that because in their heads, like suppose you're a man and think of yourself and you're heterosexual, and but you find yourself attracted to this woman who has a penis, and then for a lot of men that causes them to have this kind of crisis where they're like, oh God, is this gay? Am I gay? Who am I? What is anything? I guess I encourage people to like relax a little bit. Like the fact of the matter is that like sexuality is very complicated. Most of us are a little more fluid than we like to think. And also I would say that, if you're worried, is it gay? The quote, well, no, it's not gay is the short answer, I would say, because what it means to be a gay man is to be a man who's attracted to men. Because you were attracted to a woman with a penis, does that mean now suddenly you want to have sex with men? Like, no, it doesn't mean that. It means that you were attracted to a woman and that woman had a penis. Like
you're answering the time-old question of the internet here today.
Oh, yes. Well, I have a video on the subject called Are Traps Gay?
Oh, you do? I haven't seen that.
Yes,
Are Traps Gay?
I do. And
the answer is no.
The short answer is no. Yeah, the video is an hour long. If you want the long answer,
okay, so very, very short answer.
And I made that video. I made that video when I was, dating men. So it was something that was kind of on my mind, and I had these experiences with men.
Did these men who were dating you ever have these kind of conflicts of identity? Like, am I gay? Am I straight? What's going on?
Yes, I definitely have had men. It sends them into this like deep philosophical spiral sometimes. Or I've also had like, I don't know, you have a lot of experiences that are interesting. Like, I don't know, I had like some men will think like, oh, I'm attracted to you, but like, I'm not attracted to penises. So I'm not interacting with that at all. And a couple of times I said okay to that because I don't know, I guess I have no self-respect, whatever. But like, I don't know. But then they would kind of get interested as they became interested in me. But people like, there's a kind of complicated thing about sexual attraction where people think that like sexual attraction is to body parts, right? So what it means to be, what it means to be attracted to a woman is, oh, I love vaginas, right? Or something like that. Well, and what it means to be into men is I love dick. Okay, a lot of times that's probably true, but sometimes, sexual attraction is not so like atomistic. It's not so like zoomed in on one little fetishized body part. And like, if you're I think people often are surprised when they first find themselves attracted to a trans person because, you always think like penis man, vagina woman. well, most people have not really encountered the body of someone who has like breasts, for example, and a penis. And I guess, you know, initially, I guess that just make people uncomfortable because their sort of brain doesn't know how to process this, right? Including the part of their brain that is involved in sexual attraction. Well, maybe I'm attracted to parts of this person, but other parts I don't know. And then so I think this is where some of like this is where the deep philosophical introspection comes in, right? As people try to understand what it means that they're attracted to something that they didn't think that they would be attracted to.
I wonder what it says about us that it's such a big deal anyway. It's like, okay, this person has a penis, and you find that you're attracted to this person, which includes their penis. Like, why does that have to be like such a ground? Like, why does it keep? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, what's the big fucking
Well,
interest?
it's like when you break it down like that, it's kind of crazy, right? That people like who cares exactly? Like it really doesn't matter, and it shouldn't be such a big deal. I guess the reason it seems to matter to people
It's
is
a
like
lot
people
of history.
and people get very invested in their identity, and their
totally.
identity includes like a sexuality. If you go through life thinking that you're a straight man, like to have something that maybe makes you sort of shakes your certainty in that can be, it's not just about like, oh, I was attracted to this person. It's like, who am I? Right. That's why it does that. Yeah.
But I wonder if it also underlies some notion that we as society still be like gay bad or trans bad.
Oh,
and so it's like,
sure.
oh no, there's something bad about me now that I like this person, which includes their penis.
Yeah. I think that, I think that there's definitely still stigma on homosexuality. Like, and that's especially true, I think, if you're like a masculine man who is operating in heterosexual spaces. Like there's real stigma to even like being a bisexual man. Like
Right.
I've heard from bi men who I know that like there's women who will just, like a lot of women actually, who will just straight up refuse to date them simply
Right.
because they've been with guys or because they have some attraction to men also. So I think that for a lot of people, there's social pressure and there's sort of an incentive to be more black and white rather than shades of gray, when the reality often is more shades of gray.
Right. So let me ask you this then, because you seems like your dating life so far has been a lot about like you're a female, but you also have a penis. So what happens when you get the surgery and you like fully transition to female? How does that affect your dating life, do you think?
Well, I think that, some trans women I know find that it actually leads to a decrease in people who are interested, because so many of the people who are interested in this, like I was talking about, this like exotic chick with a dick experience. Well, most trans women don't particularly mind that drop off in partners because they're not really interested in being this fetish object.
Right.
So for some trans women, I think it comes as like a liberation. Like it's like, well, now at least I know that anyone who's interested in me is interested in me for the right reasons. And I think that, I guess it's valid for people to have different attractions. Like I understand that like there's going to be people who only want, like who are willing to be with a trans woman, but only if she has a vagina, right? Only if she's post-op. So that kind of changes if you can date those people after you're post-op, obviously. And then there's people who are only after this like girl with a penis experience, then they won't want to date you anymore. So that's something that trans people consider. But I think for the most part, like this is not really like why we're having the surgery or not. It's about us, it's about our bodies and what we want and how what we have to do to feel comfortable. It's not about like, oh, I'm doing this to make other people attracted to me.
So there's so much to think about. I mean, it's a lot for you guys going through that.
It is a lot. Yeah. It takes up a lot of life just figuring it all out.
Well, what is it like? You're a progressive. Is that the right title? I think probably.
I like that title. Yeah.
Yeah. You're progressive. You're trans on a platform where conservative politics seems to be like the predominant force. And so I'm just curious, what's your experience like on YouTube? Do you find a lot of hostile forces? Do you find a lot of supportive forces? I mean, both, I'm sure, but kind of curious on your experience.
Well, when I started, it was 2016, and back then it was even more true that it was a conservative platform. Like, I guess this was the era of SJW cringe compilations,
Right.
purple-haired feminists,
Right.
76 genders, like that. This whole moment in YouTube internet history. Yeah, I guess that kind of stuff was kind of initially kind of what motivated me to start making YouTube videos. Is that I saw that there was this kind of political commentary on community, or not necessarily a community, but like a market, I guess, for this kind of content, just doing huge numbers, millions of views, about people dunking on like 17-year-old like feminists or whatever. I was just like, okay, there's like an opening here for someone to come in and like
Block the shot.
Block the shot. Exactly. Yeah. So I guess that's kind of what I sort of set out to do at the beginning, is like, I wanted to kind of introduce a more nuanced discussion of this. And like, I guess I had been, in academia, as grad student. So I had been around campus activists. Like, I knew how annoying they could be. And so I guess on some level, I understood, like, I could have like a visceral sympathy with the people who are anti-social justice warrior, because it's like, yeah, a lot of social justice warrior behavior is very annoying and very off-putting. And I get why people don't like it. But I guess what I saw was that in response to this like annoying, preachy, kind of behavior, was that people were just like shutting down any interest in progressive causes, and things were going like speeding to the right wing very fast. And it was something I was sort of personally invested in, because a lot of this was, the trans people were kind of scapegoated through a lot of this as like these crazy snowflakes. And, I kind of knew that I was part of that group. So there was always kind of this incentive, I guess, for personal involvement, where I kind of wanted to make myself understood by more people than just the people who were already like vocal activists. I wanted to be understood better by normal people, by like a general YouTube audience. I don't know if that's normal, but but as that's sort of what I envisioned for the beginning. So as things have grown, like there is a big leftist community on YouTube now. I mean, I've got like, what is it, like more than 1 million subscribers now. So a lot of the feedback I see is now very positive. But when I started, that was definitely not the case. Like, I got like the first few videos I think I uploaded on this channel got mostly downvoted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was that discouraging? Did you ever feel like quitting?
Actually, no, because I felt like, to me, I saw it as a challenge to find out how to get these people. You know what I mean? How to get these people on my side. Like, and so I guess even though I was being attacked, I was like, all right, like, what can, I don't know. I've always kind of wanted to be an entertainer, right? Like I mentioned my past as a musician. On YouTube, I want to be an entertainer too. And part of being an entertainer is winning over an audience, right? Like, you have to kind of get people, not just speak to people, but also get them to want to listen. And so I found, by trying to make my videos more entertaining, and by using kind of theatrics and other things like that, I could sort of make a video that was very inviting, sort of easier to get into, and not so like, here's what you believe, here's the list of the 10 things that are bigoted about what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like that I didn't want to do that kind of content, because it seemed like it just drove people away.
Interesting. I mean, what do you think about, there's people like, let's say, do you think YouTube's a good place to engage with people? I mean, you have these huge, like Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, The Quartering, who pees in his own basement. I don't know if you know about that.
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay, that's fine. But I don't know what it is. They have like these daily shows, right? That they command these huge audiences. But what really interested me is when you made this Jordan Peterson video, who's like, this godfather of kind of conservatism in a way. And if you go over to like the Jordan Peterson subreddit, you can see that the people there are really reasonable, or like they're actually really receptive to your video. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I got interested in Jordan Peterson. Well, initially I got interested in Jordan Peterson because he kind of rose to fame as someone who was speaking out against the pronoun thing. Yeah. And for a while, so I kind of resented him at first because everyone was asking me all the time, why are you taking away our free speech? Why are you trying to send people to jail for using the wrong pronoun? Well, of course, we're not trying to do that. No one has ever gone to jail for using the wrong pronoun in Canada. So it was all fear mongering. But I guess I decided, I don't know, why don't I start listening to this guy's podcast? So I started listening to Jordan Peterson's podcast, and I actually thought it was very interesting. Like, I don't know, I just found him like an interesting person. And I guess I felt like I was sort of getting why a lot of people liked him.
Right.
And that he's and I can see to a certain kind of person, he's like, could be a dazzling speaker. He's very educated, and he has all these examples, and he seems to be offering like life advice as well as politics. And a lot of the life advice is kind of, self-help, motivational stuff. So it's the combination of that with like his attacking the sort of activism that irritates a lot of people. So this was a recipe for success. But I guess I fundamentally disagreed with a lot of what he was saying certainly about the pronoun thing, but also about he was kind of very alarmist about what his phrase was, like postmodern neo-Marxism, which is what
that means.
Yeah, no one knows what it means.
Well, he says we had him on our show a few times, and he would say all the time cultural Marxism, and I still don't know what that means. It just glazes over me.
Well, when you look at the examples that he uses of like postmodern neo-Marxism or cultural Marxism, it's all kind of the same thing. Like he's talking about like this strange like imaginary union of like HR departments that like have like diversity quotas in hiring, plus leftist academics, plus it just seems to be like basically some like conglomerate of all the institutional forces that have anything progressive about them. And I guess it's like it goes along with a lot of like affirmative action arguments as you argue that this is this is the new racism, right? This isn't just some kind of authoritarian project that's gonna like I don't know, throw you in pronoun jail and make you go to diversity training or whatever.
I guess my confusion was like his alarm about that never really amounted to anything I saw in reality. So I was always like, he's talking about it like some force is coming to sweep us all away, the new fascism. And the disconnect for me was just like, I had a hard time taking that seriously because it didn't see anything like that in the world that I was living in.
Yeah, he compared like trans activists to Stalin because he said that there's the same authoritarian principle, and it's like, well, first of all, wanting people to call you by your pronouns is like very much not the same as like wanting to take control of a state where you like dictate the economy and like you know what I mean? Like it's just like not Stalinism. This is like a ridiculous exaggeration, right? And also, it's especially ridiculous because trans activists, like at the end of the day, don't really have any power. I guess people look at these little cases of like, oh, like someone got fired for saying something transphobic. You know what I mean? And they're like, well, this is it. 1984 is Orwell's nightmare. Like, but it's like that's not what authoritarianism is. Like that is not like having like.
It's just a fringe group looking for some acknowledgement. I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
I mean, so like the thing about the law that he became famous for, the pronoun thing, I've had trouble getting the whole thing straight. But from what I understand, there was never really was there ever an intention in Canada to hold people criminally liable for using the wrong pronoun? What originally was the law?
No, I mean, all that law does is Bill C-16, I think is what it's called, is all it does is adds transgender people to the list of people who are protected under like Canadian human rights.
Like a hate crime.
Yeah. So basically,
It's like
the
black,
Jordan Peterson,
yeah, Jews,
Jordan
black
Peterson's
people,
exactly.
minorities, yeah.
Yeah, and Indigenous Canadians, right? And like the argument that Jordan Peterson made was like, oh, this could be used to like force people to use a certain pronoun or something. You know
Is
what I
this
mean?
fear that anyone can say they're trans?
That wasn't what it was about. It was about just like fear that like, oh, we're going to be coerced into using people's pronouns, and it's going to be justified with this law, which they're going to say it's a hate crime. Right. But it's total speculation that amounted to nothing.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing how much built off that one story. Well, he's back. What do you think about he's back? He's been on quite a journey. It sounds like you're somewhat of a fan of his, or at least you followed his career. I did.
I wouldn't say that I'm a fan, but I did. Maybe more of an anti-fan, but yeah.
Yeah, an anti-fan. I followed his career. Not a fan. Well, you say you listen to his podcast, and you know you like what I like. For when I had him on, we did talk about politics. We talked about philosophy and kind of the self-help stuff, and it was great. But he's back. He had a tough time, man. I don't know if you've been following.
Yeah, benzo addiction. That's a very difficult thing.
Benzo, meat diet.
Meat diet. That I cannot make heads or tails of the meat diet. That seems like madness to me.
That's all meat diet. And apparently he's still on it. I mean, I think the very fact of what he went through may negate all the benefits they may be saying about the meat diet.
How does he poop? How do you poop if you only eat meat?
I do wonder. You must be like super constipated.
I would think.
Thank you, Zach.
Like, I don't know. I feel like fiber is like.
Can someone look that up? What's the bowel movements of an all meat diet look like? I mean, I don't want to see a picture. I'm just curious about the description of it.
Bring it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on someone like Joe Rogan? I'm just kind of curious. Like he's very popular, obviously, on YouTube. He's leaving YouTube, but he has such a huge influence on young men.
Yeah, I think that he is kind of like the biggest of these kind of YouTube voices. It's basically it's talk radio for millennials, right? Like it's the sort of position that like Rush Limbaugh had. Joe Rogan is not Rush Limbaugh. I think that his way he positions himself is as more of a he's more of a like guide to the various guests. Like he's a little bit more neutral. But I guess a problem an objection I have with Joe Rogan is that he'll have these like very right-wing people on, especially it's actually especially awful with the trans issue. Like he'll just have Ben Shapiro on to just like talk about why trans people are delusional perverts or whatever. And it's like, he doesn't really challenge that very hard.
Right.
And so in effect, it's like endorsing that message to his audience.
Yeah. That's a challenge. I mean, yeah, as a host like him, it's really challenging. It's like, do you not have these people on, or does he has an obligation to be more prepared for the arguments that are going to come up, so that he doesn't put that out as an endorsement?
Yeah, it's it's this difficult decision, right? Like who do you have on as a guest, like on your show? And like to me, I don't know. I don't have any principled objection to like having Ben Shapiro on as like a podcast guest, but I feel that people who have a responsibility, I guess, I don't know, like I feel if I had a show that I had guests on and I had the guest on who was saying like a bunch of racist things, like I would feel like I had some responsibility to be like, whoa, like I don't agree with that. That seems kind of racist, you know what I mean? Like, or at least like, maybe not say that, but like at least like challenge them on it. Whereas if I just let them go and I'm like, that's an interesting opinion, you know what I mean? It kind of legitimizes and normalizes what they're saying, which is not amazing. That said, do I think it's like evil? Like, no, I don't think it's evil, but I think that it's like kind of an irresponsible use of, or at least it's frustrating to me as a trans person to like, cause it's just too easy to imagine when you say, oh God, like, 10 million people are watching this. Like, it's just making the world harder for trans people. It's like setting us back. It's like steepening the slope that we have to climb to get anything done, or just to live our lives even. So when you're whipping up antipathy to like an already marginalized community on your show, it just makes the lives of people who are out here harder, and it's hard not to have like some negative feelings about that.
Yeah, Yeah, that's understandable for sure. Guys, do we have any updates on meat?
Yeah, and funny enough,
Okay,
since we're on the topic of Joe Rogan, I guess I found an article where he had tried it and reported on, and it's actually the opposite of what I thought. Apparently, it gave him explosive diarrhea.
Oh, gross.
Which he described like unlike anything he had ever experienced before.
That's not good.
And said it was only a matter of time until he shits his pants.
Doesn't that mean he's not digesting his food?
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound very healthy.
Ugh.
So like no nutritionist like would ever recommend that you only eat meat. Like I don't understand how this is seriously something that people are entertaining.
So, okay, so Jordan apparently he started his daughter was like, you got to try this all meat diet.
Yeah.
It's everything. And at first he's like, okay, I'll eat meat and veggies, but then he cut out the veggies and he's like, it's cured my depression. I've lost 50 pounds. But, you know, he went to get like treated in Russia for a day. I mean, like something went wrong with the diet.
It just sounds like snake oil to me. Like it sounds like a miracle
For sure.
like bullshit diet.
For sure. I mean,
All meat diet, like
what is is there like a theory behind it, Dan, that it's like because usually with these diets, it's like we're living like cavemen used to live, how our body's meant to be. But I don't see
Right.
any
Right, there's at
world
least
where
some logic to that. Yeah, I've never really understood what the argument for it is.
I don't think we ever just got down with meat. And they eat raw
like,
meat too, dude. Like raw meat.
Yeah. I feel like humans invented cooking for a reason.
Right.
And like I don't know, civilization has thrived with like humans cooking. It seems strange to give that up. Also, we have like molars, like teeth in the back for plants.
Yeah.
That are probably there for a reason. Like I don't know. We're not carnivores. Like cats are carnivores, right? Like they can only digest meat. But that's like humans are not that. So
I feel like people always have to take everything to the extreme. It's like we've done everything else. Now let's just eat meat. Like all these diet fads are like, this is all that's left. Let's just do all
Big
meat.
massive dumps.
because it's also like Jordan Peterson is someone who's so his arguments often come from like evolutionary biology,
Yeah.
like the whole lobster thing. It's like, well,
Right.
there's hierarchies among lobsters. Like we should have hierarchies too. Like, well, but primitive humans didn't only eat meat.
No,
So
of
why
course
should
not.
like it just I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't add up to me.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I think these people who do these crazy diets, they just like trying these extreme things. And
I think people kind of like, I think we humans, like naturally, we want to regulate our diet in some way. Like most cultures have some kind of dietary code. And then people who don't have one, like make them up, like keto or vegan or like, I don't know. People like
the ritual.
It's the ritual, of having some kind of like.
I wish I had a ritual. I'm just a
I could use a little bit of structure in my life. It's total
need that
chaos over
badly.
here. Yeah. But well, it's like you say, order out of chaos. But that seems like that seems like an approach that like all meat. I don't think that.
Just imagine Jordan Peterson having explosive diarrhea, if you would, please.
They call them dumps.
I'm picturing it. It's crystal clear.
Like just not even fully digested meat, just blasting out of his ass.
Just animal blood.
Just
God.
bloody shit. Well, on that note, Natalie, I think we've said it all.
Yeah, I don't know. The universe has come to its conclusion.
Yeah.
Jordan
Well,
Peterson.
I thank you.
Diarrhea.
First of all, ContraPoints on YouTube was amazing. We're all fans. And I thank you for talking so openly with me. I felt like I learned a lot, and I really appreciated our conversation. And just thanks for everything you do, and really appreciate
You're
you.
very welcome. Thank you so much for having me on.
We're coming through on that ass, baby. You better watch out.
You better watch out. Ooh, what up?
Straight coming through on that motherfucking ass, baby. Listen to me.